Okay, so here we are. It's another beautiful sunny Sunday morning. There's not been many this year, so fantastic. So getting ready to go out for a ride on this Triumph Trident T160 1975. So this is the sort of last iteration of the Trident, last sort of throw of the dice of the British motorcycle industry. There was this and the Norton Commando 850 Mark III. By then the sort of companies had kind of amalgamated, and these were the last two bikes they made. Probably arguably the best sort of two, the 850 Mark III Commando and this T160 Trident, but too little too late in terms of survival for the company. So we got the T160. Main differences are that the cylinders are inclined forwards. On the T150 they're vertical. Now, when BSA made the Rocket 3, they inclined the cylinders forward from the start, and basically it looks better. It just looks like the bike's going sort of 100 miles an hour when it's standing still. They say, the company will say, we did it because it's better airflow and whatever, better engine balance or whatever. It's a lot of bollocks, really. It just looks better. And they said, we did it because we had to get the starter in, because of course the other main difference is it's got an electric start. But as has been shown, you can fit electric start to T150s, which have the vertical cylinders, so it doesn't make any odds. Anyway, so T160, inclined cylinders and electric start. Then you've got front disc brake, normally single, and rear disc brake. Things like that. Classic sweeping. The lines of the T160 are just really elegant. The T150, the Rocket 3s, they went off on a tangent with oval design, and they tried to come up with something new. They knew that they needed to update. They just kind of went off in the wrong direction. And the old T150 sort of styling wise, I mean, whatever you think about them now, but certainly at the time it wasn't greatly they weren't greatly loved at the time. So they went back to this classic styling, and then you've got updates. You've got things like an instrument binnacle, instead of the lights and that in the headlamp. Oh, we've actually got a binnacle, and it's got things like a neutral indicator light. Wow, it doesn't work very well, but there is one. So they were trying to sort of catch up with the Japanese electric start, instrument binnacle, and so on. And then of course, famously, the T160, we have four exhaust pipes. It's still only a triple 3-cylinder, but we got 4 exhaust pipes. Why? Again, the company will say, better gas flow or something like that. Rubbish. Basically, they're just trying to make it look like a 4-cylinder bike, because when this came out in 75, everyone, was it the UJM, the Universal Japanese Motorcycle, all the Jap bikes were inline 4s. And everyone was going for inline 4s was the thing. So, in order to catch up, instead of course, making a 4-cylinder engine, what the Brits did was put 4 pipes on their triple. Later on, when was it Bloor, whoever took over Triumph, back in anyway, the Hinckley, the first Hinckley Triumphs that were made back in the 90s, one of the first things they did was to make a 4, because it was so sort of bred into our psyche that that we wanted an inline 4. We never had one, and so that was one of the first bikes they made. It was later discontinued, but such was the desire that 20 odd years later we still made a 4, because we wanted to catch up with the Japanese. Anyway, so it's a beautiful bike. I know it might look nice in the sun. It actually really needs cleaning. The reason I'm not been out on it for a while is because I've developed a very slight oil leak from the head, and I think I'm trying to track down where it's from. I think it's coming from the rocker box, where the rocker box joins the cylinder head. But it's so hard, because what happens is you just get a little patch of oil on this fin, and so is it coming from there? Is it coming from from the inspection caps. Is it coming from the tappet cover? You can see I've put an aftermarket tappet cover on because I thought it was coming from the tappet cover. So I bought a sort of an alloy billet cover, which has made no difference. So I'm fairly sure it's not coming from that cover. I've tightened everything up numerous times, and it's not made any difference. I think the gasket has probably come adrift, sort of moved out of position. And last time I rode it, the weep was worse. The weep is slowly progressively getting worse. So anyway, we'll see how we go. But I was going to do it this winter. I'll just fix that. Well, of course, I haven't got near it. I haven't even cleaned it. I've been working on other people's bikes, and even then I'm behind on that. Everything's just been backing up. But there we go. So yeah, this is mine. As ever, I've sort of chromed various extra bits. As is my one. It's all stainless steel nuts and bolts throughout. I've chromed that binnacle. It's got a custom paint job on the tank, as you can see. They never came out in this colour, but this paint job was actually done before I bought the bike. I bought the bike supposedly as a sort of completely rebuilt bike. I paid top money for it, and of course it wasn't rebuilt at all. It was just painted nice and looked nice, but the actual engine and everything was not nice. I had to rebuild the whole bike. Lessons learned and all that. So it's got Premier carbs on it. I run it without an air filter. People say, oh, we shouldn't do that. Well, maybe I shouldn't, but what have I done since I've rebuilt it? 5 years ago, whatever. So I've done 1,588 miles on it since I rebuilt it. So I don't think that's really, if I was riding it every day across the desert, obviously you want an air filter, but tootling around the back lanes of Derbyshire, sort of a few hundred miles every year at most, it's fine. Obviously it will probably wear the bores more than if I had an air filter, but negligible. Stainless steel hoses everywhere. And twin discs. Now they never came with twin discs, but you cannot rate them, so that's what I've done. And you can. The problem is this right hand fork leg never had bracketry on it for a caliper. So what the racers used to do back in the days was actually use a left-hand caliper on the right and turn it round, so you'd have one. So the caliper would actually be here, because it was and the because of course I don't. Is that right? Yeah, I don't think they'd have used the actual bracket for the mudguard. I'm thinking, because obviously it wouldn't be there, would it? But anyway, nowadays you can buy a new fork leg, a new right-hand fork leg. It costs a load of money, of course, with the bracket for the second caliper. So, and it does make a fair bit of difference. I've got alloy rims on this, which I like. The only thing about alloy rims to be aware of is that they can be more easily damaged than stainless steel or steel rims. But I've never had a problem with this. But if you're because obviously I'm not riding it roughly, as it were, but if you're going over farm tracks and that, then something to think about. And of course, if you do hit anything, then they're gonna go out of line straight away. But it's a beautiful bike. I love it, and I'm afraid of having to sell two of my bikes, and the one that's going is a T150. Yeah, I suppose this is just more classic, the T160. Although my T150, I love it to bits, and arguably it actually runs better than this. For whatever reason, it just does. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna just have another go at tuning the carbs when I'm out, just to double check they're right. That's about it, really. But really looking forward to the ride, and going out with a friend of mine, Wendy, a sort of a girl biker, and she goes to the TT every year. She actually is a marshal at the TT, and she's got a really old Suzuki. And so she's coming out with me. We did a little service on it the other day just to check it's okay to go to the TT. So it's going to make it, because it's a pretty old bike. And so she's just coming out with me today. She just wants to check, that it's all okay and it's going to make it to the Isle of Man and back safely. So that'd be nice. I don't normally go out, on a ride with other people, but it's always nice to go out with someone else for a change. I don't ride with other people simply because, right, you have to arrange the ride. So you say, okay, we'll go out this Sunday. Well, you can guarantee that this Sunday is pouring with rain, number one. Then number two, what time you're going to leave? You're ready to leave at 8 or whatever, and you arrange to meet at 11. So then you're kicking around doing nothing. Then you get on the ride, and then there's someone who's going too slow, or there's someone going too fast, or they decide the ride is too long or too short or whatever. I just like it. I go on my own. I can go exactly what time I want. If it's bad weather, I don't have to go. I can go as fast as I want. I can go as slow as I want. I can go where I want. And that's why and it's nice to meet up with people at the cafes. I really enjoy chatting with people at the cafes, and that's great. But don't tend to ride that much together. For those reasons, really, which I suppose you might say is antisocial, because when you're on a bike you can't talk to anybody. I suppose you can get these headsets these days where you can talk to each other, but generally on a bike, you might be riding with other people, but you're still in your own little bubble, so it's not like you're being antisocial. You can't talk to anybody anyway. So I prefer to ride and then meet up with people at the cafe and have a chat then. And here we are, back at Money Ash again, which can't be a bad thing at all. And obviously it's a beautifully sunny Sunday, and so we got loads and loads of bikes here today. Ducati Monster, which I've heard are good. And here we have, of course, a CBX. Is that Mark II, is it, or whatever? I'm not sure. I know the later ones had the Pro-Link suspension, didn't they? I'm not sure. But anyway, CBX. Another Ducati, looks a bit flash. And a 60/7. And there's so many models of the BMW, I always get confused which is which. Prettier. It's Wendy. Kev. And here is Wendy's bike, which I was completely wrong about. It's not a Suzuki, it's a Yamaha Seru 225cc. Single cylinder. Anyway, we got it. It's running and it's off to the TT. So if you see Wendy on the bike, if you're going to the TT, she's marshalling over there somewhere. Then, there's a rather beautiful T160. How's it going? It's not bad considering it needs a damn good clean and everything. We've been okay. And the oil leak. Let's have a look. Not bad. There's probably just a little dribble of oil there, but luckily not as much as I was expecting. So maybe I am on the right. Maybe it just does need things tightening up. I don't know. Now, and I've never seen one of these before. So this is the Kawasaki. I forget the name of it, but they're sort of retro with the overhead cam drive. Much more expensive than the. Is it the Royal Enfield that does one similar to this? I can't remember. So it's a real retro twin, but with the cam drive. But I'm not. I know it's one of the other makes does a similar bike, but this is like much more expensive. But obviously, being a quacker, it's top notch. What else we got? We got a couple of Harleys. Got a custom Harley. Okay, not sure what sort of head that is. Probably don't know. I know shovel heads and pan heads and so on, but I think they're sort of post that. What else we got? Triumph Trident Bonnie. Right. Vulcan. Yeah, it's looking like a kind of Vulcan. Sorry. How is it? Is this yours? Is it? Yeah. Nice.
I like it.
Yeah. You've had, yeah. Looks a biz. Very nice. I'll be back up. What's it all? CBR. Of course, Fireblade. I think that's a mean-looking Duke, isn't it? I think that's maybe Kevin's Duke. It's a mean-looking machine. That one. Honda Hornet, is that 600 or 650 or something, is it? A Bonville T120, another Harley. I don't know what they call these engines these days, but the modern Harley engines anyway. They've probably got a name. Not panhead or shovelhead or whatever, but probably something. And here's the modern Z900. So yeah, I quite like one of those, but they've sort of managed to kind of do the retro, and they took the decision not to do the twin shocks and kept it monoshock. But the The rear grab rail is sort of iconic with a Z. So they kind of, I think they kind of done pretty good balance there between a modern and a retro. You know, it's not totally retro, it's not totally modern. They've sort of acknowledged the fact that it doesn't look like a classic, if you know what I mean. Oh, crikey! And here's a A5, no, 1100. Crikey, I haven't seen what now. So these are pretty much for the American market. So they used to, the original ones are the 900 B5, as they used to call them, but this is a later model. Yeah. So so it's a sort of cruiser, which they mainly sold in the States, but cruiser version of the Z, which is basically the same. It's the same. The Z engine stayed the same for years and years, right up to about for 20 odd years. They use the same engine. So it's basically a Z1 engine, but obviously tweaked and with totally different carbs and so on. But that's a cruiser version of it. Mainly sold in the States. Right. Interesting. Anyway, very nice here today. It's busy without being like ridiculously busy, so that's nice. And of course it's bright sunshine, which is always welcome. Right. Are we getting back? We'll be getting back on the bike and heading back off soon, I guess. So what's this?
Have you got the Philip Stark on?
The what?
Very rare bike, Philip Stark.
What is it?
The only bike, I think, that's got a named designer attached to it, Philip Stark.
Yeah. Okay, Coke. So back from the ride now, and it was a really good ride, and bike going very well. I've just given it a quick wash, but obviously that's left a bit of a sheen on it, so I've got to polish it up, but at least I've given it a clean. I just gave it a sort of good old wash because I hadn't touched it for God knows how long. All going well. The good news was that oil leak from the head was still there, but much less. I'm thinking it might well be from the inspection cover. That's as near as I could track it down to, and so this is good. Blimey, if otherwise, taking the rocker boxes off. It's a much bigger job, and then also you're disturbing the push rod tubes and so on. So if it is just that inspection cover, then I'll be happy. But obviously I've already fitted that billet cover, and that's not cured it, so I don't know. Yeah, but the thing I got with this bike, and why the T150 is so much nicer at the moment, is I've still got a very slight kind of uneven running, kind of misfire type thing at very low revs. So you're just tooting along about 2,500 revs just with the throttle open. It just doesn't like it. And I've got to track that down. And I think that it's running a bit lean, for the simple reason that when it does that, if I put the choke on full, it kind of seems to sort it out a bit. It likes having the choke on even when it's red hot at low revs. So I think it is lean. So I've already got larger pilot jets in. So I think I'm going to take the carbs off and look where the needle position is, and maybe raise the needle 1 or even 2 grooves, because the needle position will affect the revs at those particularly low revs. Needle position will affect that. I've already got larger cutaways, smaller cutaways. Yeah, smaller cutaways in the throttle slides to make it a bit richer, but that hasn't really cured it. So, but it's going great. It pulls like a train. And there's only once, I don't know if it's on the video, but I got it up to like about just over 6,000 revs. My God, it just suddenly changes. You're tooting around, which is okay, but you get it to 6,000 revs. My God, it's just, the whole thing just sort of like tightens up it's really taut, and it just loves it. It just becomes a different beast altogether. It really does. Yeah, okay, but it's still pretty dirty, and I really got to clean it up. So I really must sort that car problem out, sort that very small oil leak out, clean it all up and give it a service. But of course I was going to do that all this last winter, and I haven't done that. And so when I'm actually going to get around to it, because I'm still in the middle of doing a T160, and that's kind of stalled at the moment. Well, it has for a couple of weeks, because they took so long to do the engineering work that the work I was going to do in like February, March, I couldn't do it. And now, of course, it's spring, and there's all these jobs, household jobs, that need doing, and the garden and so on. And I'm working, doing other work and so on. So I'm struggling to find any time at all to do anything. But anyway, as soon as I can, then, it's quite rideable, this, so that's okay. But I just, just want it to be right, especially if I am selling the T150, and that's going to be advertised later today. Which will be I don't know if I'm doing the right thing there. I'm buying an old pre-war bike, which would be beautiful, but I know it's a pig to start. Whereas the whole, I've future-proofed all my bikes with electric start. But I won't be able to put electric. And the one thing I know about this bike that I'm buying is that it doesn't like starting. So it's 1,000cc V-twin. So you've got 2 500cc cylinders to kick over. So I don't know. Right. Anyway, great ride. And Wendy had a really, she really enjoyed it, and she's got a lot more confidence about now riding to the TT next week. Week on Thursday, I think it is, she goes. She's going to be marshalling over there, which she normally does. And yeah, so all good.